I'm Rahel Philipose, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show. In this episode, we discuss how the TIPRA Motha party in Tripura is taking a stronger stand against the BJP government in the state. We also talk about a school in a tribal-dominated district in Gujarat, which recently made headlines after an IAS officer wrote that the students are getting rotten education in the school. But first, we talk about the Congress in Maharashtra. Within the course of about 1 year, two of the three political parties that form the Mahavikas Aghadi or the MVA alliance in Maharashtra, the Shiv Sena and the Nationalist Congress Party, have suffered debilitating vertical splits. Earlier this month, the leader of opposition in the state assembly and NCP chief Sharad Pawar's nephew Ajit Pawar claimed the support of a majority of NCP MLAs and joined the Eknath Shinde-led BJP Sena government after being sworn in as Deputy Chief Minister for the fifth time. Now, this tussle almost mirrored Eknath Shinde's rebellion against the Shiv Sena last year, which ended up not only splitting the Sena, but also toppling the then Uddhav Thackeray-led MVA government in the state. But for the alliance's third member, the Congress, the developments within the NCP and Sena seem to have presented a golden opportunity to stage a resurgence ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. Some of the party's top leaders even held a meeting recently to discuss its strategy to try and regain lost ground in a state that was once its stronghold. The Indian Express's Manoj CG joins us in this segment to talk about the rise and the fall of the Congress in Maharashtra's politics and its prospects going forward. So Manoj, to begin with, can we talk about where the Congress stands at the moment in Maharashtra's political landscape?
See, like in most of the states, the Congress was the predominant and the main pole in Maharashtra politics till about 1990. And in the last 33 years, the party has never been able to touch a three-digit mark. So, like the situation of the party, as I said, like in most of the states, is the same. The 90s saw the rise of the BJP, the Ram Temple movement, the Mandal politics, and especially in Maharashtra, the bomb blast, the riots that happened after the demolition of the Babri Masjid. So all that resulted in, the party shrinking over a period of time, and the Shiv Sena emerging, and the BJP also emerging. So from 2014 onwards, the Congress has been facing, both desertions as well as a massive loss in its vote bank. So much so that the NCP and the Shiv Sena in the three-party alliance, the MVA alliance, the Congress is the junior most part. So that is where the party stands in Maharashtra now. Even in Lok Sabha, the NCP could win 4 seats in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, and the Congress could win just 1 seat. The rest were all cornered by the Shiv Sena and the BJP. So it has a huge history of being the predominant force in Maharashtra. But that was that's history now. The situation of the party now is really bad in terms of vote base and voter support.
Right. And with tensions brewing both within the NCP and the Shiv Sena of late, where does that leave the Congress party, especially with the Lok Sabha polls right around the corner?
Now, most of the Congress leaders believe there's a golden opportunity for the party to, revive itself. So now, especially after the last assembly elections, when the Congress came fourth in assembly, as well as the poor performance in Lok Sabha, the Congress was struggling hard to revive itself. Now it sees an opportunity precisely because the Shiv Sena has split, the NCP has split. In the MVA alliance, Congress was a poor third. Now the two bigger parties, so to say, have split. The split has happened very badly, that the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray faction is really facing a big challenge. The same with Mr. Pawar. Here the Congress senses an opportunity in multiple ways. One is to increase its vote base, increase its popular support. Then the other issue is the seat sharing, both for the Lok Sabha and the assembly elections will also be happening after the Lok Sabha elections next year. So in the last assembly elections, it was the Congress NCP alliance. It was decided that they will contest 125 seats each. The Congress finally ended up contesting, I think, in 147 and NCP in 121. So now the complication as far as assembly is concerned in both assembly and Lok Sabha is that now there will be a three-way division of the seats. with the Shiv Sena entering. But the Congress here also senses an opportunity because the NCP and Shiv Sena both are now much on a weaker footing as compared to last time. So even before the talks for the seat sharing begins, the party wants to, send across a message that it is a stronger player now as compared to a divided NCP and Shiv Sena. So everything is timed, everything is being done in view of the seat sharing talks as well.
Right, and talking about seat sharing, Manoj, could you tell us how this dynamic could potentially play out?
It will be tricky, both in terms of Lok Sabha as well as Assembly. Every party, their leaders, respective leaders, they realize that, they will have to make some, sacrifices in terms of some seats and all. But before the process officially starts, there will be posturing, there will be muscle flexing by all the parties, by Shiv Sena, by NCP, by Congress. But what the Congress believes is that despite it having only one seat last time, the party believes is that in terms of the organization, it is in a much better position as compared to the NCP and the Shiv Sena. So it is going to be a very, very tricky negotiations for all the three parties, despite all this messaging and signaling about opposition unity, this front anti-BJP front coming up to take on the BJP across the country. But when it comes to seat sharing, when it comes to discussions between parties in each state, of course there will be hard bargaining, there will be muscle flexing. We'll have to wait and watch how this will play out. But these parties, in case of Maharashtra, all these three parties have little option but to stick together, especially for the NCP and the Shiv Sena. Given the splits that they have suffered, the Congress realizes that they are in a much weaker position. They will have to remain united as under this MVA, this Mahavikas Agadi setup. So that is why the party is now planning to do all these campaigns and trying to send that message to the partners.
Right, and with Ajit Pawar no longer the leader of opposition in the assembly, the Congress has been vying for that position. But does it really stand a chance there?
No, the Congress claim is that since it is now the largest party in the opposition, since the 56-member Shiv Sena has suffered a split, the 54-member NCP has suffered a split, the Congress with 44 members is the natural claimant for the post. But then it is not just about a post, it is about the posturing that the party wants to do. It's a message that the Congress is trying to send is that, see, we are the bigger party now. You both have suffered splits, both in terms of your legislative parties and in terms of your on the party on the ground. So you have to now realistically analyze your respective strengths and then take a call. So it's a larger message that the Congress is sending, keeping in view the seat sharing talks for the Lok Sabha as well as Assembly.
Right. But there's also a lot of internal tension within the party, right? Particularly surrounding the state president, Nana Patole. Was this addressed during the recent meeting of the Congress leadership?
Tension in Congress state units is not new for the party. In Maharashtra, it has always been there. Now, Mr. Nana Patole is a former BJP leader. He was a former BJP MP. He joined the Congress and within 2-3 years, he was made the president of the Maharashtra state unit. Largely because the perception is that Mr. Rahul, he had the backing of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Now, Nana Patole is considered a lightweight both in Maharashtra politics and in the Congress party. It's a fact that several of the leaders have in the recent past come to Delhi and complained against Mr. Patole's style of functioning. One particular complaint being that he travels across the state without taking the local strongman, the local leader into confidence, that he's trying to prop up his set of leaders. So the meeting saw Mallikarjun Kharge, the party president, telling Patole that, see, as a Congress president, you are free to travel across the state, addressing rallies or public meetings or taking meetings of the party organization. But you have to keep the local leaders in the loop, at least inform them. So you all need to work together, because the unity is one message that comes out in almost every Congress meeting, irrespective of states. But the rumblings, of course, in Maharashtra between various leaders and factions continue. And the only message that the AICC gave, the Congress High Command gave to the leaders was that if you don't, remain united and put up an united front, there is no point in, fighting an election as a divided house. So that's a message that goes out to almost all state units.
And next we talk about Tripura. Earlier this year, during the Tripura Assembly elections in February, a relatively new party made waves in the state. The party in question was the TIPRA Motha, which is led by the descendant of Tripura's erstwhile royal family, Pradyot Kishore Debarma. When we spoke to the Indian Express's Debraj Deb, he told us what the party stands for.
TIPRA Motha is a tribal-centric party, though it likes to call itself just a regional party. But it's a tribal-centric political party which was floated in 2021 with the demand of greater TIPRA land, which essentially was a separate state for tribals. But from 2021 till 2023, this core demand of this party has undergone several evolutions in its explanation. So, first of all, greater TIPRA land went on from being a separate state demand to a demand of a separate autonomous state inside Tripura, which would have direct funding and some other, extended authorities.
And Debraj says that this demand for a greater TIPRA land came up because the tribal community in the state felt that their issues and concerns were being neglected by governments year after year. And so before the state election this year, Debarma announced that the TIPRA Motha would ally with a party that would take the concerns of the tribal people seriously and also engage with its demands. And for this, he met leaders of all parties, including Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Now, it's important to note that at one point, it seemed like the TIPRA Motha would join the Congress and the CPIM alliance. Though in the end, Motha did not ally with anyone. The BJP was the one that won the elections, but Motha ended up being the principal opposition party in the state. And after winning, the BJP made several promises to the TIPRA Motha, which led the party to take a softer stand against the ruling party. Lately, however, Debarma and his MLAs have been attacking the BJP government because they allege that the party has not kept their promises. To know more about the issue, my colleague Utsa Sarmin speaks to Debraj in this segment.
So, Debraj, can you first tell us about the kind of assurances BJP gave to Motha after it won the elections?
So there has been a series of meetings between the TIPRA Motha chief, who is also the head of the erstwhile Tripura royal family. His name is Pradyot Kishore Manikya Debarma. And Pradyot has been meeting Union Home Minister Amit Shah and Assam Chief Minister, who is also the chairman of NEDA, Northeast Democratic Alliance, which is the Northeast version of the NDA. Of course, BJP has clarified on its part that it doesn't want a separation of Tripura or any other kind of separate entities like autonomous state inside Tripura. It has clarified on its part. But TIPRA Motha was assured by Union Home Minister Amit Shah that though the central government was not agreeing to any of their demands specifically, the central government would appoint an interlocutor to look into these demands, to study and examine what kind of problems are actually faced by Tripura tribals, as was demanded by TIPRA Motha, whether these issues are actually on the ground. An interlocutor to be appointed to examine these things.
And has the BJP kept its promise? Did it actually send an interlocutor to the state?
So now this interlocutor issue has gone through several phases of failed dates. For example, Pradyot Kishore has been repeatedly telling that an interlocutor has been appointed, the MHA advisor for Northeast, who is also looking after the Naga peace talks issue, Mr. A.K. Mishra. He would be put in charge of Tripura as interlocutor. It was announced by Pradyot Kishore several times. But at least 3 dates of Mr. Mishra coming to Agartala to meet all the stakeholders in Tripura, that would be to initiate a discussion on the problems of tribals, whether greater Tripura was actually needed. So this process, it lingered on, and A.K. Mishra never came to Agartala. And certainly this whole thing that the central government or the BJP top brass, those assurances of an interlocutor or the starting of a discussion on this issue of tribal development in Tripura, these unfulfilled promises have actually sort of put TIPRA Motha in a sort of a tight spot, so to say. And particularly Pradyot Kishore, he enjoys a certain respect and fan following in the tribal base. But his words were repeatedly falling flat, and the people started questioning themselves. There was a sort of question on the trust, and it certainly puts the pressure on Motha. So yeah, there was some kind of pressure on Motha, so to say.
Right, and that's why the Motha is now taking its role as the principal opposition seriously, which it was not doing before. But what about the other opposition parties? Before the elections, CPM and Congress wanted Motha to be a part of their coalition. Are they still keen on that?
Well, the Congress and CPM was very excited to get Motha on board before the elections. However, after the elections, I wouldn't say they are not interested, but they are certainly that the degree of interest has come down. And particularly because Motha's repeated re-evaluation of their political stand to BJP has put a certain stopper on the excitement of the opposition parties like CPIM and Congress. And Congress, certain CPM leaders like former opposition leader and former Chief Minister Mr. Manik Sarkar was also heard saying that this Motha stand was ridiculous, and that Motha had fallen into a trap of BJP, and that Motha would be losing their public support base because they were trying to sort of get tribals confused with issues of ethnic demands, and these are not really in the interest of tribals. So certain top CPM leaders of the state were seen criticizing Motha, something that was not really seen in the election time. So while the CPM and Congress are not entirely disinclined to join hands with the Motha, especially with the parliament elections coming next year, I would say that the enthusiasm that they had for having Motha on board has significantly come down now.
And at a time when opposition parties are criticizing the state government, is that something that the BJP is worried about, especially considering that the Lok Sabha elections are a year away and Motha has a stronghold over Tripura's tribal belt?
Well, yes, it is a very significant factor which is in the process, because you see, Tripura has got 2 Lok Sabha seats, and one of them is reserved for the tribals, which is the East Tripura Lok Sabha constituency. And since Motha still has a very strong hold over the tribal belts in Tripura and the tribal voters in Tripura, certainly the way Motha goes for the elections, whether it is with the BJP or with the opposition, or if it sort of chooses to fight independently, like it did for the assembly election, that would tell a lot about how the tribal voters are going to sway, in the local parliament elections next year. So that is a major thing to be considered.
And in the end, we talk about a school in a tribal-dominated district in Gujarat. On a rainy Friday morning in June, the Indian Express's Ritu Sharma had visited the Jamli Dolaria primary school in Gujarat's Chota Udaipur district, which is about 240 kilometers away from Ahmedabad.
Now, this is entirely a tribal-dominated district, and it borders 2 states of Madhya Pradesh as well as Maharashtra. And this school, the Jamli Dolaria school, it is also one of the schools which is under the Mission Schools of Excellence scheme of the state government, which is financially funded by the World Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the ADB, which is the Asian Development Bank. It has a beautiful green campus. So that day when I visited the campus, the students were already late for the class, which started at 7:30. They had reached around 9:15 because it was raining heavily in that area that day.
And after reaching the school, Ritu went and sat with the students of class 8, who at the time were revising what they had been taught previously.
So they were practicing to write 3-digit numbers and words. They were simple write and read. And it was a smart board on which they were practicing. So the teacher had written 10 words in Gujarati and 10 numbers in Gujarati. And the students were asked to read aloud all those numbers and all.
Now, the reason why Ritu visited the school was because last month it made headlines when an IAS officer, Dhaval Patel, who is the Commissioner of Geology and Mining, visited the school and wrote a negative report about its condition and the level of education that the students were receiving there.
So this is one of the 6 government primary schools he visited in the district, Chota Udaipur district. And all the schools were in the Chota Udaipur taluka only. And he had termed 5 out of 6 government primary schools in this border district as rotten. Now, this is his words, rotten, which the letter was in Gujarati. So he had mentioned as like Sarelu section, rotten education. But he had also pointed out how teachers had failed to respond to his queries. Basically, he had asked about probably some schemes of the government, particularly education department, and the teachers were not able to answer them. So this was the reason I had made a visit to the school.
And in his report, Dhaval Patel also mentioned that when he asked a student in class 4 to do a maths problem, she started crying and did not answer him.
To conclude, he had said that thus, looking at the poor state of education at 5 out of 6 schools, my heart felt indescribable guilt. So these poor tribal children do not have any other source of education, and this is my strong opinion that we are doing injustice to them by giving them this rotten education. So we are ensuring that they continue doing labor work generation after generation and not move forward in life.
The letter was sent to the Education Secretary Vinod Rao, And it created a lot of controversy and rattled the Gujarat Education Department, which was asked to submit a report regarding it. Now, during her visit, even Ritu saw that some of the students were struggling with their numbers and letters when the teacher was quizzing them.
So she asked one of the students to write 540 on the smart board. Now, this entire thing is going in Gujarati because the medium of instruction is Gujarati only. So in her first attempt, she writes 5040. And then when she realizes that probably she is wrong, then she attempts again. She then writes 50040. And then the teacher says, no, that's not correct. And then one of the students from the back benches, he gets up and then writes it correctly on the smart board. But the teacher at that point also specifically said that these students, when they see somebody from outside, so they get a little nervous.
And this perhaps could make the problem seem worse than it was. And this is why Ritu says that we really need to understand the reason why these students are struggling.
So reading what was there on paper and getting to know what the actual situation is, these are two different things, I would say. Because until and unless we know what is the kind of atmosphere, what is the kind of environment, what is the social fabric of that area, what are the social issues of that area, the demographic issues, the geographical issues, the terrain issue, how difficult it is for the students to get to the school. For instance, they were late, they could not reach on time because of the rain. Simple issues like the rain can delay the students getting to school. So all these issues, and then another issue of the students not being too open. Like they are very conscious, they are very shy, they're not able to express themselves with somebody who's from outside. So these are the issues which should also be taken into account, which should also be considered before giving a judgment or before giving a final word. So these things should also be considered, I would say, which you will only get to know until you spend some time there and get to know the area better.
And she says that after spending an entire day with the students and teachers of Jamli Dolaria, she got a sense of the problem that the students have been facing.
The first issue most of the teachers and even the district officials had pointed out was the irregular attendance, now which is one of the nagging issues in this belt, I would say, in the district, because they are saying that the high rate of absenteeism amongst children is one of the major issues which they have to fight. Now, to cite some of the examples, they had said that parents migrate to other districts, for example, like Surendranagar and all, where they get into this cotton farming, like plucking the cotton and all, where they employ more students. So this is one of the practices. So they migrate to other districts, and adding that now children whose the grandparents are back, stay back in the district, the parents migrate to other places. So they are a little irregular because they have somebody to take care of like them. So only those whose grandparents stay back in the village usually manage to attend school regularly.
But besides, Ritu says that the problem is also that often these children are taken to the fields to work with their parents.
Because that area doesn't have the labor force and all. So the tribals, they have to work themselves in the farms. And the teachers say that the older children, the parents would take them to work in the farm. And even if they're not taking them into the farm, so they ask the older ones to take care of the younger siblings at home while the parents are away in the farm.
And now another reason why students are struggling to learn is because the school teaches them in Gujarati.
Now, since that area has this Ratvi tribal language, and most of the teachers, the faculty, they are not from this belt or this region. They are from different districts. So they would say that it took some time for the teachers to adjust to the language, as well as it takes time. Every year it takes time for the students when they get into the school. So it takes a few months for the children to get used to the Gujarati language, because they have a different dialect, a different language, and even for the common words, they use it differently.
Now, after Patel's remarks about the school, Ritu says that the district primary education officer, Imran Soni, has taken some measures to address these concerns.
He had made a team of beat inspectors, as in like particular area which is called as beat, and a team of beat inspectors and principals, BRC coordinators, CRC coordinators, and also award-winning teachers from the district schools who would visit these schools regularly. So the team had to visit the schools, they have to inspect them, they have to keep monitoring them, and then a report could be made at the end of the month. Every month reports would be made. And also he has started taking a kind of test just to have a sense of the awareness level among teachers. So basically, this is a simple Google form, a Google sheet about these various schemes of education department to get an analysis or get a feedback of how much the teachers know about the scheme. Because one of the major observations which was made by the Secretary Education Vinod Rao was that most of the teachers also do not know about the government schemes of the education department. For instance, the kind of scholarships the students have been given, or the recent initiatives as in like the Gyan Shala, Gyan Setu schemes and all. So the DPO has also started, first he has created a question bank kind of thing where there is information about all the schemes of education department. And then the teachers have been asked to go through this question bank and basically to know more about the scheme so that they could tell the students and the parents about the schemes and they can avail the schemes at the maximum and all. So these are some of the initiatives which has been taken for the district. Particularly, one is creating more awareness among the teachers and also among the parents. And the teachers has also assured that they would be giving additional time to the school, which is called Samvedan, as like they are donating their additional hours to the school. And that would be after the school finishes. So they would be staying back to the school, working with the students, or probably planning out what should be done for the next day. Yeah.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Rahel Philipose, and written and produced by Utsa Sarmin, me, Rahel Philipose, and Shashank Bhargava. It was edited and mixed by Abhishek Kumar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at @Express Podcasts and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.